Welcome to Building Healthy Relationships, the 4 Habits podcast, helping you enjoy better harmony at home, thrive at work, and win at life. Here are your hosts, Dr. Andrea and Jon Taylor-Cummings, recognized authorities on the subjects of improving work relationships and cultures, as well as couple and home relationships.
Well, hello again and welcome back to yet another episode. We are always excited to have great guests with us, and today we've got no exception. We've got the wonderful Richard and Maria Kane with us, the founders of Marriage Week.
Yep.
Just to set the scene here, if ever you have celebrated National Marriage Week around Valentine's Day, it's because of these guys. They set it up, 30 years ago coming on now, and it's been going stronger and stronger and just now global. So welcome, Richard and Maria. Lovely to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Nice to be here.
It's such a joy to have you both. You know, I'll share it a bit that you've been there for us from the very beginning, but we want to give you the proper introduction so everybody knows who they have the privilege of listening to this morning. So Richard and Maria Kane, founders of National Marriage Week, have made a profound impact globally by promoting the importance of strong marriages. This initiative, celebrated currently in 26 nations and reaching many, many millions of participants annually, began in 1997 under their leadership, while Richard was national director of the charity Marriage Resource. Marriage Week International has grown into a collaborative project that draws on various organizations and networks for its success. It champions the diversity and vibrancy of marriage as the cornerstone of family life and has garnered support from political, religious, and media figures, including prime ministers and other national leaders. That's the big picture and the public kind of profile. But we want to take this time to say a huge thank you to you, Richard and Maria, because you championed our marriage. You were there for us from the very beginning, and you championed the vision that we had, which has given birth to the work that we now do. So thank you for believing in us, for opening doors for us, and really championing what we were seeing way back then, almost 30 years ago when we met. Huge thanks from us. Welcome.
You're welcome. We haven't really done very much, but it's very easy to believe in you two as a couple because you're very professional, but also you've got terrific stamina and vision, and you've achieved extraordinary things. So it's nice.
Thank you very much.
It's nice to imagine we had a very, very little part in the early days.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. I remember actually one of the things you said in an introductory letter to somebody, telling them about the work we're doing and encouraging them to meet with us. And you said, if anybody can do it, these two can. And I should have been nervous then because I thought, what's he talking about? Not knowing that.
How hard can it be? Exactly. But I think the word you used back there, Andrea, championing, is so key. And that's why we've called today's talk Championing Love.
Yeah.
Because that's what Richard and Maria are all about.
Yeah.
We said Championing Love, a global movement for stronger marriages. So today we're going to be talking about harmony at home, which is the different categories that we look at. But that's the really big focus here, because Richard and Maria have so much to share. Well, they've already had such an impact in this space and so many goodies to share to help other people get so much better at that. We want to start with the vision, don't we?
Yes, but we'd love to know if you take us back a little bit to what started this passion that you have and what's driving you even now. What's the change that you want to see in the world around this area of marriage and relationships?
Well,
big question, but over to you.
I mean, it's ever so simple. And one of the reasons why Marriage Week is still going is it's very simple. There's nothing complicated about it. But it began when a friend of ours, he split up from his wife. And they'd had a big wedding in church, and everybody had been there, happy days, And I went out for a drink with him, and I said, what's going on? Are you fighting? Are you arguing? Is there somebody else involved? What's happening? I don't understand. And he said, it's none of those things. And so I said, well, what's happening? And he said, well, it's because of all the pressures in life, pressures for good things, pressures for children, for housing, for careers, for advancement, and other things as well. And he said, it just seems to have squeezed all the love out because there's no space left. And when he
Wow.
said that, yeah, I thought, oh, that could be me, because at the time we had small children and not much support. It was like, oh, I could see that. And so then I thought, I wonder if we could do something just to encourage all the couples, who have made this as a life choice, just to encourage them every year. So, well, if you're fortunate enough to be in a marriage, you should look after it. And here are some ways to help you to do that, as like a signposting thing.
Mhm.
And then I because I had this a job working in this area of life, then I called a meeting. All the leaders came along, and they said, "That's a great idea. So if you do it, Richard, we'll support you." I was a bit more younger and a bit more stupid, I think, and I thought, "It's great." So yeah, and the whole idea. I mean, it is a primary preventative campaign, like clun click every trip, like eat vegetables, 5 vegetables a day, all that kind of stuff. But it also has, unlike just a campaign, it has a local expression in churches and church halls where other people like you guys and us who just want to be a blessing to their community and to help
Mhm.
encourage the couples on their street. They just do little things in their church halls and in their houses and stuff, and it just makes it safe to do things like that because it normalizes it. So that's a bit of the backstory. Did you want to add anything, Ray?
Yeah, it's a bit like you were trying to tell a story about the lady from ITN, ITV, the journalist.
Well, in the midst of all the busyness of loads of interviews on the telly and radio, and
yeah, you became a bit of a TV star, didn't you? You were always on the TV and in the news and meeting prime ministers and all sorts of things.
Yeah, there
Celebrity.
was all that, because it was like. Anyway, she said to me, the way on an interview, like they always do an interview before the real interview to make sure you say what they want you to say, like a rehearsal. And it was a young lady from ITN, from the newsroom, and she said, we're having a little chat. She said, she kind of leaned in a bit. She said, is it like you really want to get everybody talking about what do you have to do to have a happy marriage? And I leaned in a little bit and I went, yeah, I think that's probably, I'll go with that, And then she said, I need to tell you, it's a great success, because she said all morning in our newsroom, all we've been talking about, she said, we haven't done any work. We've just been talking about how do you have a happy marriage all morning.
Wow.
Wow. I thought we're really scratching an itch here, And then we got so much coverage in the media that the industry magazine, the magazine for the PR industry, PR Week, they have annual awards. And they invited us to their annual awards at Dorchester on Parkway.
Oh, did they?
Okay.
And we came joint second place for best.
Wow.
Yeah, for best promotional activity of the year. And the other finalists were Kellogg's, Lego, and Microsoft.
And British Airways.
Well, no, the BA thing was even funnier, because they do a magazine every week, or they did. And in the magazine, they featured campaign of the week. And there was like top half page, one campaign, bottom up. So we were on the bottom one. The top one was a campaign for BA and had their agency, and they had the budget, 5 million quid or something like this, you see. And then it was and when they interviewed me, they said to me, who's the agency? I said, no, we don't have one. Okay. And then she said to me, what's the budget? And I just went, 50 quid. And they put it in at 50 quid, So, we just got, like the government were really involved. The Lord Chancellor at the time, he hosted an amazing event. And we had media come from all over the world. And then we did a photo with the Prime Minister and his wife, presented 12 red roses. And that was funny, because the press officer, when I found out, he was not impressed. And I said, we want to present 12 red roses on Valentine's Day from National Marriage Week. We've done this before. He was, So then I called the opposition, you see, because there was no come on.
You do.
Yeah, and they said, can you fax over a bit more information? Which I did. Didn't hear anything back. And then I waited till 5 to 5, and I called the guy back at Downing Street. And I said to him, look, I just want to bring something to your attention. So he said, what's that? I said, well, I spoke to you this morning. I said, and you didn't seem that excited. He said, no. I said, I need to tell you that the Labour Party have asked for more information, and from you, we've heard nothing. And then I just stopped talking. And then, I could hear the comments going around. And then he said, okay, it's all on in the morning, 9 o'clock, 10 Downing Street. I've got the Prime Minister and his wife. Bring 12 red roses and a woman, preferably your wife.
Wonderful.
So that's how to make it happen, eh?
I know. I bet you could have so many stories to tell us about the journey. But what was your vision back then, and what is it now? What did success look like for you? What were you trying to achieve?
I think at the time when the first National Marriage Week started, it was that the divorce rate in the UK was rapidly growing. And the breakdown of families were rapidly growing. I mean, as we know now, the cost of a breakdown of families is in billions of billions. It's really a lot. So at the time, the Lord Mackay was the Chancellor, and he is a Christian, and he was really bothered about the low. The government was given so little money towards marriage support, and everything like that. So he was really troubled by this. And of course, we realized as well, this is not a good thing. Can't we do something, because, like we said, the support for marriages is so low. And that is the foundation of society. Everything is built on relationship, families, single families, or whatever family type you're in. It's a family of some kind. We all have a mother and we all have a father, whatever they look like.
Yeah.
So, this is really, something really important. We spend all our money on getting housing rights, on paints and wallpapers, but we don't spend any time for the people who live in it.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So exactly.
That's what our concern was. We thought we need to do something, and that's really has always been our passion and our passion still.
And so to answer the question, what does it look like? It looks like an uncontrolled expression of relationship support in local communities. So the media and all that stuff is fun, but it's like I'm just really into all the little people you never hear anything about, who just invite their friends to supper and say, now look, it's National Marriage Week. Let's just look. I've got some cards here to start a discussion. Let's just talk about this. Let's get open about it. I think that's where it really works. Because PR and media are like tomorrow's fashion paper. It does affect, but it's hard to measure that. But like when people reach out to other people and say, look, let's just talk about this. It's great. It's great.
So Marriage Week really now is a movement, and people use it as a shop window. Or a platform, because we have said we're not producing any resources, because there are plenty of resources out there. I mean, you are producing resources. Every country, in the world have all sorts of different resources. So we said you use the resources that you have. It's not good. We don't need to produce one, but what we're trying to do is to call people together to do something about supporting couples, families in your community, and you do it in the way that works for you with whatever resources you want to use.
Yeah. What examples have you seen around the world of how these communities are supporting marriages now through the National Marriage Week and beyond?
I mean, in some nations, specifically in the Balkan states, but are slightly more conservative than we are maybe in the UK. I mean, they are reaching their smaller communities. They organize. For example, in Hungary this year, there was a little town, and they decided they want to do something about Marriage Week. And so they got all the churches in the town said, well, we want to support, whatever the Protestant, Catholics, Orthodox, whatever they're called. So they started off like, well, let's invite the community to do like a all the school children to do a drawing competition about what is marriage, and invite and have their drawings as a exhibition for 2 weeks in the local castle. It was in the middle of the city, and then invited all the mayors, all the parents, all the children, which are hundreds of people there. And this was the start of the National Marriage Week, the Marriage Week in the city. And then they organized, romantic dinners for couples. They invited the couples to do like a sports event, running around. They had a games evening for couples. They had obviously church services, and they did loads of things. So the whole community got together, and they could choose their friends voted. And of course, this is just 1 week, but then they were come to something. And I thought, this is really good. Well, I like to go on and continue this journey of finding out about something about relationship skills. So then they realize, these people, they have a course, or they have an online event or something. I'm going to sign up, So it's sort of become something that people think, it's not just a 1 year event. This is something I can do on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So it acts almost like a trigger, a catalyst. Once a year, you have this catalyst that sparks other marriage events and so on, activities across the year.
It's like our friends in Poland. They get dressed up in fancy dress, bathing costumes in February.
Okay.
And they go swimming in the Baltic as an expression.
What time of year is this? What's the temperature?
I know, it's February.
In February they do it. Oh my goodness.
And obviously they're not going to learn very much about relationship. Well, we might do actually. I'm doing some of that. It's a catalyst. It's a signpost, because then that evening, they're all in there doing a seminar with an academic on I don't know, what's something to do with the psychology of the relationship that they're in and stuff, because they're all academics. They just pretend they're country cousins when they dress up in all this stuff. And so the strength and the weakness of the project are the same. The strength is that it's out of control. Nobody controls it, so it's hard to measure.
Wonderful.
And also
the weakness.
And the weakness is it's out of control. But I kind of think it's like Christmas. People put their own spin on Christmas. They can do that. And Marriage Week is like that. People can put their own spin on it, and we find out afterwards what they've done. But I'm comfortable with risk at that level, whereas perhaps others, wouldn't have.
Well, what we want to do is to get people to do something to support marriages, relationships, and however they looks like. Well, that's great, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just some activity happening there. Have you had much? I mean, I know you've had a lot of support from the church in terms of being the catalyst and getting activities done in different communities. Have you had much support from outside of the church in terms of, I guess, local communities, whether it's mayors or business or what have you, getting behind this and supporting marriage and relationship?
Religious communities obviously are interested,
Other religious communities.
Yeah, but outside of that, there's always an element which is secular, because marriage for lots of people is religious and spiritual, but for lots of people it isn't also. And so they go like, well, this is ours as well. We want to do something. It's slightly more difficult because most resources have a religious orientation. But it's not for religious people to exclude people who aren't religious.
Yeah.
But then
it does carry on outside of religious.
But then also, for example, in Europe, most places in Europe, you can't get married legally in a church or in a place. You have to get married at the mayor's office, and then you can go to the church, whatever place you want to go and have a blessing service. So it means that in Europe, lots of mayors gets involved with the Marriage Week organized. So they invite Jubilee couples, and they set up sort of a whole sort of celebration for that. So they use it as well. So obviously then they reach people who are not churchgoers, because anyone gets married at the mayor's office.
And one of these other things I wasn't expecting, but I've learned from observation, is this: that the Marriage Week gives a reason for a good person to do a good thing. So what
Wow.
I mean by that, in Slovakia, the first lady, who's the wife of the president, for years and years has sent in a letter of support to the marriage team. You know, the usual thing. I'm delighted to have married. And the question is this: if there wasn't a marriage week, she wouldn't write such a letter because you wouldn't do that into a vacuum, you know. But because it's
exactly.
And now her and her husband, the president, last year they contacted our team early days and they said, instead of doing a letter, we want to make a video. We want to talk. We want to talk about our marriage as a couple, and then we're going to post it on YouTube. And they did. They did it. They tagged it with marriage. They posted it. It's had millions of views, and it's about 8 minutes of them on sofas with a coffee, just talking about what they've learned in their relationship. Now they wouldn't do that into a vacuum. They do
exactly right.
They're doing it into something which has gravity.
Yeah.
Absolute gravity. And what a resource to have. And just even in terms of them sharing and showing the importance of marriage and committed relationships to their entire country. Wow.
I'm just blown away by your generosity and, you know, the openness. You have this big vision, and yet you've not tried to hold on to it or control it or dictate how it should happen. And by creating the framework for people to have this conversation around marriages, you've just opened it up around the world to show up in different formats, but all achieving the same thing. And it's very significant, I think, that we're having this conversation with you when we've just done our first couples retreat that we've, you know, for the last 10, 15 years
probably since the last one.
We've done one. We've just rebirthed that. And what we found was this real eagerness, this enthusiasm to just sit with like-minded couples and talk about stuff and realize I'm not in it alone. And yes, these pressures are there, but there are things we can be intentional about. And that's the conversation that you are kind of promoting and provoking around the world. What a vision. What an amazing vision.
Just to jump in for a second, what we've also found really interesting, even in getting to that couples retreat that we did, was the women are all over it. They want to do it all day long.
Yeah.
You know, we put the word out there. We spoke to various people in general. Of course, I'm generalizing here, but there was a friend who was helping us organize it, and she had a group of friends around her, and she said, look, all the women are all signing up, but the guys are going, whoa, I'm not so sure. What is this about? Is this going to expose me? Is this going to show up some things? And we're saying, no. This is just about relationships. And what we loved was coming to the session. They all came in the room. We had there were 20 of us in the room, so 10 couples. And it was just this realization that actually everybody is going through some sort of challenge. It's not, not sort of
feeling the pressures.
Feeling the pressures, those same pressures you were talking about. Everybody's going through those and feeling those pressures and responding to them. And actually, sometimes the reactions come out badly, and we're saying, actually, no, you need to control those reactions and learn how to respond better. There's nothing threatening about this or exposing. We're very careful to make it a safe environment for safe sharing and nobody being asked questions that they felt uncomfortable with or what have you. But the guys came away from that session thinking, yeah, this is really something. We've got some friends who really would benefit from things like this, and encouraging other guys to go and do that. Have you had much of a challenge in that space in terms of getting the guys and the men engaged?
Yeah, I mean, there's something I always bang on about this, and this isn't what I'm about to say is not a gender thing particularly, but quite often people say, "Oh, can you recommend a book? You know, so we can read a book about." And I say, and I'm saying it now, yeah, you can read a book, but that's possibly the worst thing you can do. And they look at me like I have two heads. And they say, what is it? I said, well, if you sit there and read a book, internally, you're going to generate a list of things that he or she, who hasn't read the book, needs to improve on, which isn't helpful. So
it's always them.
Yeah, do buy a book, but only read the first chapter and then hand it over and say, you read the first chapter now. And you do it in increments, because that way you're learning and appropriating knowledge together, rather than one person becoming a stupendous expert and the other person And I think particularly for men, if you say, basically men say, well, what's the ask? Well, reading a chapter isn't going to kill you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
reading a whole book in this day and age might be like a life sentence, you know. So just to break it down into small, um, achievable objectives, you know, and that's always the way. But it's all about the temperament as well. And I think it's important for those of us who are men, Jonathan, who are kind of in this space, for us to make a special effort to identify, you know, with the concerns that the men who are looking in might see, and help them to understand it's not a female agenda here, you know, just to beat you up. It's
exactly
a learning thing together.
But I think not just men, but I think even, you know, couples feel like, oh, going on a weekend, like you just have, oh, I have to have problems to go there, you know. They don't realize it's a preventative things like eat your 5 a day or wear a seatbelt in the car. You know, they just sort of think if I sign up to anything, oh, it's like admitting to weakness. Like that is it's a problem to be weak, you know, and they don't see the benefits of it. You know, I remember we did a marriage preparation with a couple who's not churchgoers, and they were in fear and trepidation, you know, coming. But as we were talking through it, they thought, oh, yes, this is normal, you know. Oh, yes, they're talking to this because you want to help us to prevent us from making a mistake in the future, to think about it clearly. And then he said, oh, and they finished. He said, oh, we want to tell all our friends how good this was. Oh, yes, this is brilliant. But, you know, then to get their friends or not churchgoers to come to it was quite difficult.
That's it. That so we're learning about the language to use that's helpful, and we're talking more about future-proofing your relationship, but also creating that breathing space just for couples to come and relax and chill and enjoy a beautiful environment and get some insights and talk with other people on the same journey, just to feel refueled and refreshed and put some life back into the couple relationships. Well, my vision is to do that around the world in beautiful, luxurious places that people want to come to. So we'll see. But what, in the work that you've been doing over the years, what challenges have you kind of had to face around either getting people to buy into the vision, or even in your own relationship as you work together to do this? What challenges have you had to overcome?
Well, depends on, you know, in the UK, the market when it comes to relationships is slightly different from some other countries. I think because obviously we've had lots of very quite prominent resources that people have produced. Sometimes the whole working together, you know, can be hard. They want to promote their cause, but might not want to import anything. That's a challenge in some areas, you know.
Yeah, I think a challenge is, and still is, people don't really understand what on earth your agenda is. You know, out to lunch. You know, how can that be important? And then, of course, that affects support, donations, all the rest of it. Because would you rather support a couple who are to have an enhanced relationship, or would you rather support a hungry child on the Gaza Strip? Well, you know, it's a bit of a no-brainer. And because there's a poor understanding of the benefit of a relationship which has principles and concepts in it that both in the couple and that he and her both understand and appropriate, the benefit is enormous, particularly for people who are less educated. You know, I've spoken to groups and they go, oh, I've never really heard it like that before. And then I've spoken to other groups who've gone like, I've never heard anything like that before.
Wow.
You know, and there's a difference, you know, and the latter group, you know, to them it's like fresh air, you know, because I've met couples who've never really even thought about their relationship. they just fancied each other, moved in together, started living together, but have never objectively considered what they're in. It's just kind of like cascaded, and so particularly for those couples, just to stop, just to say, well, just stick the brakes on, like, let's just think about what you're in. What does it look like? What are the pressure points? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? And all that. And so it's hard to answer your question. It's hard for people, particularly in the UK, to see the benefits of the enterprises that we're in because they think it's just frivolous.
Yes, I hear that.
Yeah.
But I loved what Maria, what you said earlier about we spend so much money on wallpaper in house and structure and the physical stuff, but not really focusing on the people on the inside. And like you, part of our mission is to just help people elevate the importance of relationships, realize that the quality of the relationships will influence the quality of their very lives, their health, physically, mentally, health of the children, and so on. And therefore, it put time to invest in it.
And that there is actually something they can do about it, because most people think, well, as we started talking about earlier, whenever there's a challenge, it's never me, it's always them. They're a bad person. The issue is always with them. But I loved what you said, Richard, and I thought it was real gold. So when people go on this journey, don't go on the journey on your own.
Yeah.
Go on it together.
The learning journey.
Yeah. Go on it together. Otherwise, you will end up just pointing fingers and have this long shopping list of things that they need to sort out and fix, because the problem's with them, right? So I love that little nugget of go on the journey, but go on it together, one step at a time.
Yeah. What's it been like doing, fulfilling this vision, working on this mission and this business really together? What else can you teach us? Because you've taught us a lot over the years. What else can you teach us from the challenges you faced doing it together, lessons you've learned doing it together?
Well, I think we have learned a lot about how to get on doing it together. And also because we are from two different nationalities as well. I think, it's like we say to people, it's like an iceberg, isn't it? You see the top of the iceberg, but what's really is what's underneath,
Yeah.
Those are the things that, we're trying to work out. That's where the clashes happens, is the icebergs that's hidden underneath, which is you. And I think we've had to work a lot on those as a couple, haven't we? We've had to learn a lot, we're not perfect. Because, we bump into each other like everybody else,
Yeah.
Ask for forgiveness. And you ask our kids, they can tell you we're not perfect parents at all.
Yeah.
Just do what, you do what you can and try to improve as you can, like everyone else is. But I think one thing that we always had, we got married without a back door. There was no way out. We had to work on it because we were not going to leave. And we were determined to make it work. And
amazing.
And
did you have any
important?
Yeah. And you mentioned the different cultures. I was going to say, did you have any real different or significant cultural differences that you had to face?
Been hundreds.
Massive differences, like how you do Christmas,
how you do birthdays,
holidays, like priorities.
What you do with your house, just what you eat.
How do you resolve some of those challenges? What's the secret to resolving those massive challenges?
In Sweden, we don't. In England, you got really into like please this and please this and please can I have this and thank you. We haven't got those things. It's like if you ask me, would you like a, we don't have the word please really. So
Oh, really?
That used to be, well, we could, but not in the same way as you have, and that caused a lot of problems to start with because you're pleasing everybody.
You got to hang around with. I think it has helped over because we've been married a long time now. I mean, early days it was quite a novelty to have a spouse from a different country. It was like
exotic.
Yeah.
But also it's like because of that, English people were quite inexperienced in terms of like. I mean, you go to Spain on holiday, but that's not. You just hang around with Brits. But what has happened over these years is there's been a lot more integration of people from other cultures, and so it's easier now for a person from a different culture to live successfully in the UK. One example was, I remember in the early years of our marriage, Maria was having was it your 25th birthday or something like that? And she made all this lovely Swedish food. And we invited the friends we had at the time, and none of them would eat any of it because it looked good.
Oh no!
I was so upset, and it's like, no, what's wrong with you British people? Even if you haven't tried, even if you haven't seen it, at least have a try.
Yeah.
But I think British people's appetite has changed now.
Oh yeah.
And then also, perhaps we have different friends.
We have different friends.
And Swedish meatballs are very well known now, thanks to IKEA. So
exactly.
But even so, I was thinking about another day we were away somewhere and we were sleeping in this bed. And even in Sweden, for example, you don't have one quilt. You have two single quilts in the bed.
Oh, really?
And you not always have a headboard. It's just a bed,
Right.
In England, you have all those things, don't you? So just little things like that is different, Not that
it can't have been easy.
But I'm just saying, and you probably know it from where you come from,
Yeah. Different cultures coming together always has its challenges.
And I'm glad that you raised that now, because I think that's the thing that the next generation will have to grapple with a lot more, because relationships have become so diverse and intercultural that understanding the values that sit below the surface of the things that you can see, and maybe the conversations you've ventured into up until the time you commit to living together, you haven't even started to explore what sits beneath the iceberg, and we need to get better at that conversation.
I'm keen to understand, was there any one advice that you had, relationship advice that you had that's helped you on this journey that you've been together all these years? Was there anything, I don't know, from your past, or was there one thing that stands out to you?
No, I think we both was pretty naive when we got married, to be honest, and we had really not very good support from anybody, really. Somebody was trying to do marriage preparation with us, but that wasn't that helpful. I can't remember anything from it, except they said we can't talk to you about sex. So that was
okay. And was that supposed to carry on in the marriage? No sex? Was that their recommendation?
I can't remember. So no, we had to work it out ourselves, to be honest.
They gave us a tape.
Yeah, they did.
An audio tape.
Audio tape, yeah. An audio tape.
Not sellotape.
No, sellotape. And so
Not sellotape.
I remember when Richard got the job for Marriage Resource to start with, and I remember going to to some seminar or some gathering, and then someone was talking about the love languages. What's your husband's top 2 love language? And I remember looking at this person, I thought, I've got no idea. And I didn't even know such love language. Have I got one? Has he got one?
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, yeah, of course. So, I remember that was a revolution. I thought, that's a revolution for me. Oh, what helpful.
I think perhaps priorities are really a key thing. And I remember early days going on the first residential sort of marriage education weekend thing in East London, and we got somebody to look after our children. We got in the car and we argued all because Friday night traffic, terrible, fatigue, and I said, and we got there, did the weekend, and then on the way home, I think I said to Maria, I don't think I've learned anything, but I feel closer to you than before. And then a few weeks later, I think I said the same thing again. And then we talked about it, and I said, I'm not sure I learned anything, but the fact that we were prepared to prioritize that weekend to do something on our marriage implicitly sent a signal, which meant that, I really like you, I really like us, and I really like our marriage. You know what I mean? So sometimes the way you order your priorities implicitly sends a subliminal message to the other person. So it's not all, and that's one of the reasons why Marriage Week is why it doesn't have a curriculum, because I think fundamentally it's about establishing priorities, because And if you get your priorities right, then other things flow out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prioritizing each other. And I love the way you said that. I like you, I like us, and I like our marriage.
Yeah.
To think about them as, very intentional decisions at each point, and wanting to work on all three. That's amazing.
What matters most? It's all about what matters most. Now, I'm conscious of time. This has been a wonderful conversation. We could talk to you guys for hours, I think. But as we leave with our guests, is there a parting thought? Is there one piece of advice that you'd want to give to couples, to marriages out there, to just say, here's one thing, use that. This will really be helpful.
Well, I think the whole issues of the love language are quite important. What fills the bank up and what drains the bank, if you know what I mean. But I just want to say one other thing as a challenge, is that lots of the courses around in the UK and maybe abroad as well, that are very aimed towards middle class people, professional, middle class and upper class. There is not a lot of resources for proper working class people who doesn't speak the same language as middle class. So I think that's a real need in the market. If somebody wants to write a course for people, who are.
And I think, I'll tell you what I think is completely undervalued, and that's the importance of humour in your relationship.
Humour.
Humour, yeah. I've often said, it should be the sixth love language, because you see, if you amuse your spouse, you can't amuse them without making an effort. You see, so you have to make an effort to amuse them, and so in doing so, they receive the fact that you've amused them, but also, they've made an effort in telling me this funny story or something like that. Yeah. And I think humour is underrated. I think it's I would hazard a guess, if you kind of if you did a bit of research into the happiest couples, you'll find most of them are also the funniest.
But it really is the small things that's important, isn't it, in the marriage? It's the small little things you do every day. Emptying the dishwasher, picking up your underwear from the floor, making a cup of tea. Those are the little things. The little
things
that show. A bit of humor in there as well. Why not? Love it so much.
Because people think, it's the big holiday to Jamaica. But the big holiday to Jamaica is 1 point. Picking up your underwear from the floor is 1 point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and they're all communicating, you matter, I love you, I care, and so on. But I think the point you made there, Richard, about humor is so important, because if you're laughing together a lot, it's easier to balance out the times when you're arguing. So focus on creating more memories and more times of laughter. I think that's huge.
I love that idea of a sixth love language.
We're going to borrow that, actually.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Humor.
Great.
Amazing.
So, as we depart, how do people find out more about Marriage Week International? Is there a website? Where do people go?
marriage-week.org.uk.
Okay, all right.
Marriage-week.org.uk.
We can put that in the show notes as well, so people have the link.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for joining us along. It's been good fun.
Thank you very much.
No, amazing. It's been wonderful to catch up with you and just to be ignited again by your passion. Keep going strong. You're doing a great work.
Thank you.
And keep championing.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Bless you.
Right,
bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you did, and you want to hear more, the best thing to do is subscribe. Then you'll never miss an episode. There's a new one every Friday. You can stay connected with us on social media at The 4 Habits for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and to participate in discussions related to the show. We always love to hear from you. And of course, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review on your preferred platform to allow us to reach more listeners and help people around the globe radically transform the way they do relationships, so they too can enjoy better harmony at home, thrive at work, and win at life.